You've seen them on social media, on TikTok and YouTube Shorts. If you start saving $200 a month at age 20, by time you are age 65, you will have $2.8 million. Is it true? Stay with me. So I consume a lot of social media around finance because I'm a finance professional. And one thing that stands out to me are these TikToks and YouTube shorts that state if you start saving $200 a month at age 20, by the time you are age 65, you'll have almost $3 million. So first things first, is it true? In an absolute sense, yes, the compound interest that is being calculated is accurate. And there are some caveats with what the person is telling you, but in a grand scheme, the 10,000-foot overview, it is true. Now, if that is the case, why aren't most Americans millionaires? We should be walking around with money just bursting out of our pockets if it just takes $200 a month. Building wealth is time plus compounding interest. Now, if you're starting when you're age 20 and going until age 55, you really got time on your side. You have 45 years of compounding interest. If you give me enough time, I can make just about anyone a millionaire. You could do $1 a day, but if you do it over 500 years, yes, you will be a millionaire several times over. You can do these sums that seem very small to us in the moment, but that is simply the power of compounding interest over very long periods of time. So, why don't more people have millions of dollars? We define millionaires in different ways here in the United States. Most people in the United States that are millionaires because of home equity. They bought a home 10, 20, 30 years ago. The home doubled, triple, quadrupled in value. And due to that value of equity in their home, they are a millionaire. That's certainly the way it is here in California. But if you look at the number of Americans that are cash money millionaires, that have millions of dollars in a brokerage account, retirement account, or in a more liquid form, the number shrinks to less than 5%. So, not that many Americans, maybe 1 out of 20, are millionaires. And this formula of compounding interest, I think, has always existed. I think in certain circles, people always knew it. But now, because of social media, it's reaching the popular vernacular and it's reaching people who are millennials and Gen Zs and Gen Alpha. So I think it's a good thing in that it's helping people who may have put off retirement savings by a few years to start saving now because they see that number at the end and they start saving now. So I think that's a very good thing. Something that you also have to consider is that 2.8 million or 3 million or whatever sum they say that you're going to have at age 65, it's not going to have the same purchasing power that it has right now, 45 years in the future. It'll probably have less than half of the purchasing power. It'll definitely have less than half the purchasing power because of inflation and the devaluation of the US dollar. You'll still have a pretty good sum. You'll still be in a good place, but will you really have $3 million where there's an asterisk with that number? Another thing you also have to consider are taxes. If you are doing this in a taxable retirement account, anywhere from 20 to 40% of that may end up in federal government and state government hands. So it is true, but there are some asterisks around what is being presented. Now, why aren't most people millionaires if it really is that easy? It's a little bit complicated, but a lot of people I work with are high net worth, ultra high net worth, but I also have a core of clients who are, I call them my bread and butter clients. They're more middle class or upper middle class. And some of these people are just starting out and they're working towards building their first million. And Charlie Munger in the 1990s stated that you have to basically save your first 100,000 if it kills you to get to a million. It's hard, but you have to do it. Now with inflation, it's more like 250,000 today. But he makes an excellent point that you have to hit these milestones that when you're starting at zero or when you're negative seem absolutely fantastical, but you have to hit that number in order to make it to a million. You have to hit 100,000 to get to a million. You have to hit 250,000. And the problem with starting with $200 a month at age 20 is that it's very slow going and you do not see changes over the first 20 years of that portfolio. Change is very incremental. The progress is not linear. Some years is going to go up, some years is going to go down, some years is going to go sideways. You're probably not going to cross the six-figure threshold until 15 years or more in. And human nature is that when we're seeing something where there's no change or there's very incremental change, we get tired. Suddenly that $200 a month can go towards a nice vacation. Suddenly that $200 a month can go towards buying a new car. We find other uses for it that are more immediate, and we forget our 65-year-old self. And so we stop putting money into the system. And once you stop putting capital into the system, especially in those first early years, everything breaks down and the wealth building cycle stops. So that's one of the first reasons why most people don't make it to $1 million dollars is because the runway is way too long and the changes are too incremental, and people start finding other uses for that $200 a month. And so 3 years in, they stop the saving cycle and use that money to go on vacation somewhere and just never resume it. There's other things that happen along the life journey that break down the system of saving $1 million. Life is just not linear. Life is not linear. Things happen. Things like having children, buying a home, periods of unemployment, periods of illness. Sometimes people have to tap into the resources that they have invested, saved, just to survive. If you're unemployed for 6 months and need something to bridge you over and unemployment isn't enough, of course, you're going to tap that individual brokerage account that you spent 20 years building up. If you need a down payment for a home and you have no other resource, of course, you're going to tap into that individual brokerage account or maybe take a loan or something from your 401k. There's just different events that happen in people's lives that stop the investment and savings process. And once the investment stop and savings process stops, it's very difficult to get that process started again. Now, the true number when really compounding interest really takes over, when you really start seeing big things happen, is about $650,000. Most people never make it to $650,000, either in individual brokerage accounts or in their retirement accounts. But that's when, the market returns 10%. That's an additional $65,000 in your account after 1 year. The average median income in America is under $65,000. The reality of compounding and wealth building and compounding interest is, and I know people are going to balk at this, but it is true. It takes money to make money. It takes money to make money. Essentially, the problem with putting $200 a month away from starting at age 20 is it takes so much time to build up an appreciable amount in the account. To hit about 650,000, you're probably going up over 30 years in at that point, that people just lose interest in the process and stop. Now, if you have large chunks of money, okay, maybe you get bonuses at work and you can put in $50,000 and all in one go, or you sell a home and you put a $250,000 chunk in at one time, or you sell a business, you have 500,000 that you can throw at the goal, really accelerates the process. But short of some fantastical collision of events, selling a business, an inheritance, winning the lottery, getting a big bonus, having a sudden windfall of money, most people are not going to encounter $250,000 in one go in order to put it towards the goal of wealth building and saving. This also answers the questions why people who come from generational wealth always seem to have money, because if you're starting at 1 million, you inherited 1 million and it's constantly getting compounding interest, and you're able to add to that 1 million over time. Maybe that 6-month bout of unemployment where you have to draw down some of the assets really doesn't matter, really doesn't stop the momentum, because the momentum is so large at that point that it could basically cover whatever you needed to take out for that life event and keep growing. Versus you're starting at zero, you hit 50,000, suddenly you're unemployed and you need to use, I don't know, 40,000 over the next 6 months to cover living expenses. And you're back at $10,000 and you have to build that momentum all over again. So that's why oftentimes people who already have money continue to have money and continue to grow their money, while people who are starting from zero find it really difficult to build up enough momentum to make it to levels of generational wealth. In my practice, I would say probably 1 out of 3 or 1 out of 2 people who are on my bread and butter client list will be millionaires. They just have the discipline to do it. They have the income, the resources to do it. They have me as a financial advisor constantly writing them to put money away in their 401ks, IRAs, and brokerage accounts. They're on a journey and they're going to get it. In the American public, I think it's more like 1 out of 20 to 1 out of 25 people really have that level of discipline where they can take 40, 45 years or even 30 years and they can put away enough money with enough diligence to hit that 1 million mark. And that's why most Americans are not millionaires and will not be millionaires. I do believe we will have more millionaires in the future simply because of inflation and devaluation of the dollar. Eventually, $1 million dollars pretty much now in some parts of the country, like here in the Bay Area, is the beginning standard for middle class, which is very bizarre to see it in action. But I live in San Francisco where very high incomes, wealth, and compound interest is part of the vernacular and part of the air that we breathe. And we have people with fantastical sums who were able to build it up over time. But I will tell you, those people with fantastic sums often were able to put down large sums of money. Maybe they had stock options at a company and they cashed out of their stock options and had 250,000 they were able to throw down in the market. Maybe they sold a small business, they had $500,000, they put that $500,000 into a house which has doubles in value and the 500,000 that they put in is now worth 1 million. These were not people who were putting away $200 a month. I rarely meet people who are in that position of being a millionaire from putting away $200 a month starting at age 20. Do I still advise that 20-year-old to put away $200 a month? Yes. They will be in a far better position in life if they put away something than if they just hadn't put away anything. But the reality is of wealth building in the United States, the wealth basically favors the already wealthy or people who can put down large sums of money at one time into the market and basically leave it untouched and have it grow over time, which unfortunately isn't the vast majority of Americans. So there you have it. Why most Americans are not millionaires. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you like and tell me what you don't like. And if you found this information useful, please share and subscribe.